You mentioned burnout in nutrition. I wanted to talk about that a bit. I know that it can be common just across healthcare. Can you talk a little bit about sort of where that came from?
Yeah. Well, there's a huge difference between what you learn in the classroom and what you actually do in a clinic or in a hospital. And I was not prepared for that. So I was learning all this theory and I love the science, I love the medicine. And I was like, this is really cool. I'm learning a lot. But I had no idea what was expected of me until I actually started to do all the clinical practice work. And that was when it just hit me like a ton of bricks like, oh my God, I have to do this every day for the rest of my life. And the caseloads are unmanageable. You're trying to cram a lot of stuff into an 8 or 9 hour day. You have the commute time back and forth. You have people who don't respect you, who don't understand that you have a really important role, and especially in something like dietetics, where people don't really understand what we do or what training we've had. They think, that we're not as important as like the physicians or the nurses or what have you. So you have that extra expectation to go above and beyond. And then, you want to help your patients, but you don't have enough time or energy to actually do that. And then you're going home, like studying, looking things up, trying to improve your knowledge, your abilities, and then going back in and doing it again. And on top of that, you have very little time for breaks. You just can't take breaks very often. If you have a long clinic, you're just seeing patients back to back and you never have enough time, and then you have a ton of paperwork and everything to write up. And on top of that, you're in if you're in a hospital environment, you're around sick people all the time. It's a very depressing feel, and like the people are dying, like you come in one day and there's someone there, and you come in the next day they're gone, and it was extremely stressful. And then, the food in the in the hospital wasn't very nutritious. You're trying to find ways of people bringing in their own food and sneaking things in, and it was just like an overwhelming amount of responsibility. And even as a dietitian, we could have killed somebody if we gave them the wrong feeding regime or something. And it just required so much precision and so much just being on top of things all the time. And being an empathetic person, I was just absorbing all the negative energy from everyone. And it just was not sustainable. So, pretty much immediately as I started to work directly with patients, I was burning out like from day one. And I was just becoming more and more depressed, more and more unhappy, realizing like, oh, this is what I've been working so hard for. I don't want this, And it was debilitating. And I started developing all these health issues, like chronic stomach pain. I wasn't having any periods at all, headaches all the time, not sleeping, really bad skin, a lot of digestive issues, uh, everything you can think of, I probably suffered from it. And yet there was no actual disease that could account for any of it. It was all stress. And that's what I was told every time I had um, investigations. So I was running myself into the ground, and I felt like it was a dead end, And so I really felt like I had to hit rock bottom before I could actually turn things around, because I like I said, I'm a type A person. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to let anyone down, and everyone else in my cohort was doing well. And I actually had a job lined up straight out of university working as a dietitian, and nobody else had that, and it was in my hometown where I lived. And so to walk away from all of that, it didn't really feel like a choice at the time. It just felt like a necessity, and it felt like a failure.
I can't help but think if we're framing this entire conversation in the context of freedom and the having that sort of openness in your lifestyle, it sounds like the work life balance and the freedom just was not there.
I didn't even have a smidge of it. I didn't even have a taste of it. I had no idea that that was a way that people could live. I just felt like I was walking around with a dark cloud over my head all the time. And I was just becoming more and more dependent on my partner at the time, who who really enjoyed his work and who just went into the office, came back. And every day he would see me kind of deteriorating more and more. And I would just be more and more emotional, more and more kind of at a loss of what to do. And he would say things like, I'm sure it's not that bad, you know, and I'd be like, they're going to fire me. Like, they're going to let me go. Like, I can't do my job. And that is ultimately what happened. You know, I kind of reached a point where they just had to sit me down and say, look, you you can't really do this. Like, you can't really do this as well as you need to do it. And we just don't think there's any point in you sticking around. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it felt like a failure, because the decision was taken out of my hands in that moment, because like I was a liability to the hospital despite investing every single second of every day that I had into that profession and having spent 4 years studying it and trying to make that my career. And so it was the most relieving and horrible thing that happened to me. And that was when I started to look into the other options. And then when the writing sort of came to me as an option. But that was a really, really depressing time and a very, very difficult period.